YouTube. How are we? So, I'm kind of flying off the cuff, kind of almost with a series of questions, and then I'll cut the stream at some point. We are living in an age where the dissatisfaction of what our world is and our inability to relate to it on an ordinary level because of just people who don't think in general that there's a lot of divide now amongst those of us who do think, right? A tremendous amount of divide amongst those of us who do think. That's what I find so interesting, right? Is that the awakening, the transition into consciousness a lot of people with certain shared core values don't like each other. Those shared core values are not enough for people to be cool with each other, right? And it's fair enough if you get to know somebody long enough, especially if they're like a content creator, an influencer, someone who's got like friends, a following, whatever, that eventually personal reasons are going to be the reason why, and not because their research took them down the passages of wrong think, right? I've noticed something that a tremendous amount of people, one of the most prime things is the unconscious masses have two modus operandi, and then the conscious masses have several modus operandi. The unconscious masses, they've got their various atheist and religious worldviews, right? And all the worldviews of all the major world religions kind of agree with each other. Like whether it's modern Islam and Buddhism, as well as the Abrahamics, they all have a general kind of agreement about the world, and then a disagreement about the more particular metaphysics. It's almost petty on a certain level, the petty differences, and I link the various modernized Eastern traditions with it because I can't tell you how many people think that fucking Jesus was some sort of a Buddhist anyway, or whatever, right? Because people eventually looked into how a Buddhist is supposed to live their life, and then they look at how Jesus lived his life, and then they said, oh, right? And then all these correlations came together in mindset, right? And so, Buddhism's kind of the same thing, right? And all of these were, for a spirituality, were a reconstruction of the ancient belief systems that people had fallen out with. There's a lot more of people making their own personal choices when it comes to conversions than you think. It's just that when your group has become small and your group becomes the outside of the norm, and you keep doing your thing in what has now become their world, now you're the heretic, right? It's just like back in the day when the world was 90% pagan, a Christian gets prosecuted. Today, in a world where less than 10% of the population of that place is Christian, the Christian gets whatever, right? You know, something, you know, and that's only because they're acting like they're in charge, right? The Christian that goes out there in the street and preaches and all that shit, you know, he's out of place. He's asking for persecution. He's, you know, these people, they ask for persecution. Now, in the conscious community, there are various splits depending on where you came from in becoming a more conscious person. And even if you're fucking wrong, you're still a conscious person because you dared to break from the norms of the things I'm talking about, which is those religions or some atheist construct like communism. All of that is within the norm. Now, there are certain things I don't believe are within their fucking controlled oppositions to map out their Hegelian dialectics. There's certain things that I don't believe that just because they're wrong, that they're part of that, or that all of it is a part of it. Because naturally the enemy wants to use anything of our likeness to manipulate us. Why wouldn't you? This is very Sun Tzu. And the truth is that for a lot of things that I believe in, based on my assumption of research that has been vetted and qualified by what I perceive as a higher standard of proof, demanding a higher standard of trust. Because yet still, I am on my own little unique divergent path. I'm leaping ahead in the ideas because of where my brain is at as it is. I mean, like, this becomes very evident when you hear me talking about Heidegger and where my mind goes to while reading Heidegger, or when I have my interview with Paul, especially this last time on the Ormus book. Go watch my Ormus book interview with Paul Hughes. Right here, exclusively on this channel. I did not give that one to TFR. I already gave TFR a Paul Hughes interview. I can draw all sorts of certain conclusions that are rational and agreeable, and you know, I get confirmation from Paul that certain things that I'm assessing from what he is saying is true when he says yes, right? Is that confirmation bias? Yeah, it's a little bit of confirmation bias, right? But if you look deeper into the details, you know, one of the most needless divides that saddens me is the flat Earth to globe Earth divide, right? And the only reason why it becomes a point of frustration for the globe Earth person is because the flat Earth person has an answer for everything. And I was a flat out denier forever. Just like literally all of my friends that I have made in that scene, because when I was looking into that scene, I just stayed away from people that were telling me one thing or the other. Like, it's just like, dude, I'll make up my own fucking mind. Don't tell me that they're fucking retarded. Let me just go fucking look. And what the fuck they're talking, like, why are you doing that? It's just like, why the fuck do you care? I'm fucking learning. At the very least, I want to learn why they get to those fucking conclusions. Right? Because if we're going to actually give a fuck about how society moves forward, and you are getting your panties up in a knot because the way the shape of the realm is concluded by our people has something to do with whether we have a great future as a society or something or not, then I better fucking look into it so I can look at my fellow man who doesn't want the earth to be flat but wants to be right and only thinks that the earth is flat because he thinks he's right and is not married to it like a religion. That's what I want to fucking hear. Those are the people that I'm listening, because those are the people that are at least trying to do a very difficult kind of science that requires more proof than shit that you can do with the naked eye on the ground with cheap measuring equipment. Because you can't fucking criticize a world trying to break free that is in, you know, a state of economic lack, who wants to have their fucking witness heard about their world. And then it turns into personal attack stuff instead of a sharp critique of the foolishness of the idea itself. It's got to go personal attack. And I get it, because the flat earth psyop is based on victim consciousness. It's hysterical the way that it works. Because the second, because they get up there and they profess their realm truth like they're trying to get you into the Bible, and a lot of them are using Bible quotes because they want to convert Christians to flat earth without science and use scripture for it. And that is not the kind of person of this magical realm that I am. In fact, I've never seen any of these Bible verses contextually prove that the earth is, or contextually affirm that the earth is flat. It just points out anomalies contradictory to what science says is the way that it is. And so I looked into it back then, and because I chose not to make this a part of my fucking personality, because I considered it tertiary at best, like third place in values of the truth, largely because I am not leaving the earth right now. When I start fucking flying planes and rockets and airships, then I'll start carrying that much, about 8 inches per mile squared, seeming to not exist as I am 30,000 feet in the air, and I allegedly won't see a curve. Allegedly. People who have flown and look out of windows, I understand it that those windows are bubbled like a fisheye lens, so you get the same GoPro effect, maybe to a lesser severity, which makes it less obvious. Plus, with a narrow field, it's more clever, because if you can only move back and forth like this, you're not going to see much of the bow bend if the glass is warped, and thus it just simply looks like, oh, that's the curve of the earth. And so I want to know the process by which somebody has their personal defense of the globe earth, because I'm sharing, you know, it's like revelation of method. This is my method for why I doubt the globe earth and why I like the flat earth, right? This is how I apply to my observation of these dirty, persistent contrails, and why I believe that they are chemtrails. I go through a process, a very, very hard process for a man who can't afford thousands of dollars worth of scientific equipment to properly test in the way I'm looking for the particular answers. I have to wait for someone else's work to come out for me to comment upon. And I have to not judge it based on whether it exists within a peer-reviewed context. I have to judge it based on, okay, was a scientific method followed properly? Did the hypothesis match the test? And were the results conclusive? I have to actually personally look into that. I can't just sit there and say, because I am proud of a culture that is round, therefore I'm round earth because flat earthers are cringy. Therefore the earth is round because I'm not cringy, therefore the earth is not flat. That's all I ever hear a globe person say. And then there are very ignorant flat earth people that don't have a fucking good say about this shit whatsoever. Give me one moment. Literally one moment. All right. And so we're creating absurd lines in the sand. And we can't talk to each other because we aren't interested in ever establishing a common platform where we can't talk about other things that we either agree on or wish to discuss, right? Because, because if you don't believe in this fundamental, I can't fundamentally listen to you. I can't fucking deal with these people, right? So I don't like, that's why I don't like talking about any of it. I don't like talking about any of it unless people want to bring it up with me. Because I'm A, personally satisfied with where I'm at. B, I'll review it if it's a matter of fucking life and death. And C, I'm happy to wait for someone to prove it wrong on in a way that I've never heard before, that is conclusive, that isn't from the sources that are under scrutiny, because part of this issue on a deeper level is the scrutiny. Okay. So, I don't think it makes sense that somebody is being condemned for scrutinizing all the mainstream shit. I mean, we're seeing a comprehensive level of corruption like you wouldn't fucking believe. And, yeah. There's a whole lot to get into. And, it's a nasty business saying things to allow people to think that you are stupid person or a fundamentalist person. But if these conversations are not had, we're going to do a great disservice to ourselves, and risks in the social construct have to be made, because I'd rather die next to someone who doesn't believe in anything I believe in other than our rights to live our lives the way we want to, than to bitch and complain over things as petty as that, because that's how you get bombings in Gaza, over petty bullshit.